Hello, Shortridge team. My name's Adam Hipschman. I'm with the Eagle Creek Park Foundation, and today we're going to be talking about what the big deal is with the total solar eclipse coming up on April 8th. So some questions we'll answer today include, how often do total solar eclipses happen? What is a total solar eclipse? Why do you need eclipse glasses? What can we expect on April 8th? And finally, again, what is the big deal with this total solar eclipse? So I think the big deal with total solar eclipses is that it's very rare to see one. What's interesting is that they do occur every 18 months, but it turns out that you have to be right on one of those lines to experience one. So if you're not on one of those red lines at the appropriate time, you won't see the total solar eclipse. On the right there, you can see the next 10 eclipses, each one happening about 18 months apart, all across the world. But again, you have to be on that line. And what's amazing for this total solar eclipse is that we are going to be on that line, or the path of totality. So the last total solar eclipse that passed through Indianapolis happened in the year, that's right, 1205. That was 1205. That's 819 years ago. It's a long time ago. There were certainly people here, but there was no United States of America or anything like that. Now, on average, according to Dr. Brian Murphy from Butler University, just about every 375 years, on average, you can expect to see a total solar eclipse. So if you look in southern Indiana, they've seen total solar eclipses much more recently, as recent as 1869. But some of these other ones have been even longer. There was the last one that happened just to the east of central Indianapolis, 831, and above that 957. So it's been a long time for most of Indiana, or big parts of Indiana, to see one of these things. Now, again, to see the total solar eclipse, you have to be on the line. You can see in the last handful of years, there have been 2 eclipses that have passed right through the middle of America. The one in 2017 did not pass through Indianapolis. You can see Indianapolis in blue there, but we are on the 2024 line. In a moment, I'll show you some photos from when I was in Carbondale, Illinois, which is one of these locations that actually got to see the eclipse both times, both 2017 and 2024. Everywhere that's not on that line won't experience a total solar eclipse. So places like Raleigh, North Carolina, or Denver, Colorado, they will see just a partial total solar eclipse. Now, you might wonder, what is a total solar eclipse? What causes a total solar eclipse? And it's very simple. When the moon passes between the sun and the earth, it casts a shadow. And if you're in that shadow, then you see a total solar eclipse. So on April 8th, Indianapolis will be right in that path, and we will see the moon's shadow as it comes between us and the sun. So the moon just moves through its orbit like normal, but it happens to pass right between, and that is why we're going to experience a total solar eclipse. So despite one happening every 18 months, you have to be in the right spot. And that's why on average, it takes about 375 years to see one. In Indianapolis, it's 819 years, such a long time. So I want to just show you here what that looks like. What does the shadow of the moon look like? Take a look at this animation on the left. So that dark spot was actually the moon's shadow passing across the surface of the Earth. You can see that animation again, or you can look here and see these 2 still images. Indianapolis is going to be in that dark spot, which means we'll have a total solar eclipse. That's what makes it so special. If you're over here, anywhere outside of that dark spot, it just kind of feels like a normal day. You'd barely know it was an eclipse unless someone told you. If you're in the path, it gets dark all of a sudden. I'll show you that here in just a moment. So my 2017 eclipse experience, I was a high school physics and astronomy teacher at that time, and I took some students down to Southern Illinois University, where we were in their football stadium to view the total solar eclipse. You can see one of my students very excited with their glasses already on before totality, which is how you're supposed to do it. So on that day, we actually experienced a bunch of cloud cover, which it's possible on Monday we may have clouds rolling in. But we waited and waited and waited, and then during totality, we were actually able to get a peek directly at the sun's corona, which we'll talk about here in a moment. This is the moon blocking out the sun, totality. got very dark. I'll show you that in a moment. The other thing to look out for on Monday during this year's total solar eclipse is that the eclipse can project itself in strange ways through tree leaves and also through anything that has a very small hole in it, like a fence or things like that. So you can see how these little eclipse shapes on the ground. You may see that as you walk around during the eclipse on Monday. What is experiencing a total solar eclipse like? I think that these few images show that pretty well. We're in that stadium with all those people, like 10,000 people. It's 1:17 p.m. This is back in 2017. And you can see it's kind of grayish out, but it looks light outside. And then all of a sudden, just a few minutes later, it was dark like night. We could actually see stars come out at 1:21 p.m. And then just a few minutes later, the moon moved out of the way, totality was over, and it kind of, again, looked like a normal day. So that is what we're going to experience. That is why this is such a big deal. It's going to get dark in the middle of the day. Now, it's important for me to talk to you about using eclipse glasses because that will be the way that you can safely view parts of the eclipse and not hurt your eyes. So there you can see me wearing the eclipse glasses, looking up at the sun. Here is when you'll want to use the eclipse glasses. And this also gives you a sense of the timing of the eclipse. So at 1:50 p.m., that's when you should put your glasses on, or at least you should put them on when you're looking up at the sun. And that is when we'll be in the partial phase where the moon is just passing in front of the sun. Then at around 3:07 p.m., you will actually physically take your glasses off to look up at the sun while it's being eclipsed. And then you just have 4 minutes of that, and then you'll put them right back on at 3:11. Just 4 minutes later, you'll put them back on, and by 4:23 p.m., the eclipse will be completely over with, and you can probably carry on with your day. You probably won't be looking at the sun anymore. But anytime you look at the sun, you have to wear the eclipse glasses, whether there's an eclipse or not. Now, you may be saying, I don't need a pair of eclipse glasses. I already have some. Me and my family or whoever already acquired some glasses. We still want you to keep them. And here's one thing you can do with them. First of all, you can give them away to friends, family, whoever, maybe if they're not a Shortridge student. Or one thing I'll encourage you to try to do is to take pictures through the glasses with your phone. And that's one of the ways you can safely attempt to take pictures. Here you can see on the left, it was kind of a hazy day a couple of weeks ago. I took a picture of the sun. And then on the right, you can see I took a picture holding the eclipse glasses in front of, that's very important. The glasses must be in front of the phone and taking photos of the sun. You can actually get the disk of the sun. The reason it doesn't look super great today is because it was hazy, but on a normal day with no clouds, you can actually get a nice circular image if you play around with it just a little bit. So keep the glasses, even if you've already got a pair. Again, while you're doing this, be careful not to look directly at the sun. You do have 2 pairs of eclipse glasses if you're in this situation. You can put one on and try to take a photo, or more likely, you'll just put the glasses in front of the phone. Now, here's what it will actually look like. These are 2 real pictures of what it looks like to look at the sun through the eclipse glasses. On the left, if you went outside today, you would see just the disk of the sun through the eclipse glasses. If it's sunny when you grab these glasses and leave school today, you should try it out. During the eclipse, you're going to see this crescent shape, and it's going to get smaller and smaller and more crescent shaped over the hour and 10 minutes before the eclipse, once the partial phase has started. Now, what will you actually see during totality? This is the part that is perhaps the most significant part of seeing a total solar eclipse. All of a sudden, it went from being light outside to being dark, and it looks like there's a hole punched out of the sky. You've got this black disk with a white protrusion sort of coming out from the eclipse. That's called the corona. That's an enormous part of the sun's structure that is very, very hot. We normally can't see it because the rest of the sun is just so bright you can't actually see it. So scientifically, it's important for people who study the sun to be able to look at the corona. But for us, it's just this amazing, stark, maybe kind of scary looking thing up in the sky. And this year we'll have something like 3.5 to 4 minutes worth of looking at it. Now on the right, you can see a picture of what this looks like in a city. You'll have the eclipsed sun. You can see it looks kind of dusky or a little bit dark outside. It's actually going to be much darker feeling than that photo shows. But one of the most amazing things is that you'll actually be able to see this year Venus, Jupiter, and a few other planets up in the sky during the day around 3:07 p.m. on April 8th, which is amazing. You normally can't see planets and stars during the day, but this time you will. Now, this shows what the eclipse will look like over the course of a full day, a bunch of images stacked together. You can see we start with the partial phases and we move through until we get very near totality. This is a phenomenon called Bailey's beads, which you can check out in the extras I've left in the end here. Here's totality, Bailey's beads again, and then you move through the partial phases one more time. So it'll actually move through the sky throughout the day, just like the sun would. Couple more things. First, if you're really interested in helping NASA and some of its partners out during this eclipse, because we're uniquely situated in the path, what NASA wants is a lot of data from the people that live there and are observing the eclipse from the eclipse path to tell them, importantly, what are the animals around us doing during the eclipse? You can imagine it's daytime out, and all of a sudden it's nighttime out. Most animals change their behavior when it gets dark. For example, crickets start to make noise. Birds start to chirp in different ways. Bats start to come out and try to hunt. But it's just 4 minutes of it being dark. It's not really nighttime. So animals tend to get confused or act unusually because of this eclipse. And so what NASA is having you do, if you want to participate in this, you can scan that QR code and you can participate in the study. Basically, they want you to take observations 10 minutes before the eclipse and 10 minutes after the eclipse, and observations through the eclipse, and submit those observations. If you do that, you'll be part of this quite broad study that's happening all across the country to tell NASA more information specifically about what the critters are doing. And I've also linked to a YouTube video, a short YouTube video that runs through some of the strange things that they do. So if you get access to this later on, you can click and watch that video. Now, the last thing I'll close with here is that I have some recommendations for you for Monday, April 8th to view the total solar eclipse. First, find a location that you're comfortable with and maybe be ready to hang out there for a long time afterwards. In the 2017 eclipse, famously, there was lots of traffic. So if you're in a place with lots of people, expect it to take you longer than normal to get home. Also, just expect that most public places during the eclipse are probably going to start to get a little more crowded because people are going to come outside to take a look. Most people will have heard of this by Monday and will be out looking at the sun. Second, use the glasses. It's not just a thing we're doing to talk about the eclipse. This will keep your eyes safe. If you look at the sun directly during an eclipse, you may hurt your eyes, and your eyes don't have any way to tell you that they're being hurt or burned by the sun. It's not like putting your hand on a hot stove and you can feel the heat. You can't feel the heat with your eyes. So you could damage your eyes permanently during the eclipse if you don't use your glasses. It's just like staring at the sun, which you should never do. So always use the glasses when looking at the sun. Be curious about this. I've given you quite a bit of resources both during this little presentation and linked at the end of the presentation, which you'll have access to here in just a moment. See what you can learn about the total solar eclipse. When's the next one coming up? Where is the next one that you might travel to that's not in Indianapolis? Stay curious. And finally, maybe most importantly, just try to enjoy yourself. This is a once in a 819-year experience right now for Indianapolis. Don't be stressed about taking photos and videos to capture this. It's going to happen very quickly during those 3.5, 4 minutes of totality. So just try to enjoy yourself. There are going to be people that take much better photos than you, no offense. So just enjoy yourself. Try to enjoy it with the people around you. I have to say it's one of the most significant experiences that I've ever had is to see a total solar eclipse. So I'm very, very excited for the Shortridge team to have a chance to see it as well. Very briefly, I want to end with just a little bit about my organization. You may have heard of Eagle Creek Park. My organization is Eagle Creek Park Foundation. So what do we do? The main thing we do is that we raise money for Eagle Creek Park to do projects both big and small. So one of those things that we did was we did a $2.6 million grant for the new West Side Trail. It's on the west side of the park, which is brand new. And then recently we just got another grant and we're starting the process of working on building a new accessible handicap trail on the east side of the park, which currently there are no accessible trails on the east side. So it's very exciting that we've done that. We also provide animal and vet care. Oops, so let me actually back up. So here is the west side trail, this left hand or the left side of the park, the east side. This is a brand new trail. That trail in red is a 5-mile trail that goes from the south end to the north end of the east side of the park, and we helped to develop this. Additionally, we take care of the birds that are at the Ornithology Center. There's actually an eagle right now. This is Carson. He's quite young and he's in training. So we actually pay for the food and training for both the eagle, and we pay for some training for staff so they know how to manage this wild animal carefully and safely. And then the final thing is that we are big about promoting Eagle Creek Park. For example, did you know that there are pelicans at Eagle Creek Park right now? That's right. In April of 2024, there are pelicans that landed. They actually landed about 2 weeks ago. So we've been keeping track of the pelicans. That's been a big part of my job, actually, over the last few weeks, is to promote this unusual, weird thing that happened, which is these pelicans landing. So I said the last thing, but here's the really last thing. To visit Eagle Creek Park for Eclipse Day, you do have to register in advance. So our organization is pushing people to try to sign up in advance. That's the way you're going to get yourself into Eagle Creek Park. As I'm speaking right now, there's still more than 400 spots for 400 cars, I should say, at Eagle Creek Park. So scan that QR code and you can register yourself for either the general parking, which is on the normal, I should say the east side of the park most people are familiar with, but there's also some space on the west side of the park at what's called Eagle's Crest. So scan to register. We hope to see you there during the day. And Shortridge, thank you so much for having me. We appreciate the partnership that we've got going with your school, and we're glad we could give these Eclipse classes to each of you so that you can use them on the day. You're welcome to follow us on social media or scan this QR code, and this will give you access to these slides. Like I mentioned, there are quite a few slides after this one that you can take a look at with more resources, pictures, videos, things like that that I just didn't have time to put into this ATL lesson. You can reach out with questions as well by following us on socials, or you can shoot me an email at adam@eaglecreekpark.org. Again, thanks so much, Shortridge team. Have a great day.